Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Ethos. It's been a while since I've been here. I've been out for a few weeks, but it's good to be home. So, as usual, we have some wonderful music. Brett is going to be performing for us. And I say performing on purpose because it is a performance. Also, Tony's going to be speaking to us again. We're continuing on with our protest series based on the book of Revelation, and obviously Tony brings some really incredible insights and a new understanding of that book. And so hopefully all of you have enjoyed it thus far like I have. As a lot of you know, we have a barbecue gathering this afternoon, and, well, it was on the slide earlier. It's at Kim and Donovan's home I believe it's in Tustin. I do not know the exact address, and now I do. 2360 Trial Tustin, in Tustin, and obviously if you need some directions, there's a number of people around here who can direct you properly. Anyways, again, welcome to Ethos. We are a community that is definitely values-based, and we welcome a lot of different points of view, lots of different understandings here. And it's something not only that we welcome, but we thrive on. And so please come, bring your thoughts, bring your questions, and I think you'll really enjoy what we're doing here. So, Brett, it's all yours.
So if you guys want to sing along, that would be fantastic. Before we start this song, I want you to reflect for a second on what it means to be free for you. And when I think back to when I was younger, it was a moment that I would have with my mom on the way home from school. And she would say, "Hey, Brett, what song do you want to hear right now?" And I would think of all the Switchfoot or the Fray or Coldplay or John Mayer, whatever I was listening to at that point in time, sometimes Outkast and, Usher. But my mom would always listen and sing along and learn these songs with me, and it was a really, really powerful moment for me and a connection moment with my mom for her to say, you know what, be who you are. As this girl puts it, put your records on, tell me your favorite song, go ahead and let your hair down. So I invite you to let your hair down this morning and to really take this song as your own as we sing it together this morning. Birds sat on my window, and they told me I don't have to worry. Summer came like cinnamon, so sweet. Little girls double dutch on the concrete. Maybe sometimes we got it wrong, but it's alright. The more they stay the same, the more they seem to change. Don't you hesitate, girl, put your records on. Tell me your favorite song. Just go ahead, let your hair down. Sapphire and faded jeans, you don't forget your dreams. Just go ahead, let your hair down. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. Blue as the sky, sunburnt and lonely, sipping tea in the bar by the roadside. Don't you let those other boys fool you. Gotta love your natural hairdo. And maybe sometimes I got it wrong, but it's alright. The more things seem to change, the more they stay the same. Don't you hesitate, girl, put your records on. Tell me your favorite song. Just go ahead, let your hair down. I need your help. Sapphire and faded jeans, you don't forget your dreams. Just go ahead, let your hair down. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. 'Twas more than I could take, pity for pity's sake. Some nights kept me awake. I thought that I was stronger. When you're gonna realize that you don't even have to cry any longer. Do what you want to, girl, put your records on. Tell me your favorite song. Just go ahead, let your hair down. Sapphire and faded jeans, you don't forget your dreams. Just go ahead, let your hair down. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. Let's sing that chorus one more time. You guys sound really good this morning. Your dreams. Just go ahead, let your hair down. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Wuerfel.
Anyone else like that song? That felt so good. And you sang it like John Mayer. That's true. Oh, you're smooth. You're a smooth criminal. Good morning. How y'all doing? How you feeling? Wide awake? Good. Nice. Anyone remember our 3 words? The ones, you can't see them here. Hit me with them. What's the first one? Be. Beautiful. Be. We come here, you can be you. You can be yourself. You can be beautifully, uniquely, differently you. And that's good. You're accepted here. Whatever that be is, that's you. And you're welcome here. Beautiful? The other one is belong. I think in our culture, we look for places to belong. And there's not a lot of places to just be and belong, is there? And so today, to belong, to know that you're accepted, you're affirmed, you're loved, no matter what you believe, no matter where you are, no matter what your family looks like. If you've got that Uncle Ralph that's just odd, whatever it is, you're welcome, you're loved, you're affirmed, you belong here. And lastly, to become. Everything we do here, we want to become better humans. So whatever we share, whatever songs we sing, everything revolves around the idea that we want to be better and better people. And so we can do that through looking at a lot of different places. We're looking at a really interesting place this month. Anyone think, I'm really excited, Karen, you invited a friend, and we're talking about this really crazy, weird book. What's your name one more time? Erica. Erica's going to be like, what the hell did we do? What did I walk into? We're talking about what book today? So it's going to be really good. And everyone watching online from Nebraska to wherever, we're excited you're here too. Before we move into this series, though, I want to do something fun. Last week, we showed the teal shoes and the Yanni versus Laurel. Do you guys remember that? How many of you took some time and looked at the teal shoe, by the way, and you were like, oh, Tony's right, it is teal? No, you didn't? Anyone have the word move from Yanni to the correct one, Laurel? Anyway, all right, good. So that was fun. So today I want to do something different. I just want to do a fun community builder. These are words. It's called Mad Gab. And this is one of my favorite games in college. Whenever we'd be at a concert or something, we'd be waiting. We would pull these cards out, And people would look at us like we were just the biggest weirdos in the world because we'd be screaming out phrases, which sounded really funny because when you say the word that's going to be up there, it's going to sound like you're saying a bunch of weird words that shouldn't be together, but when someone else hears it, they're going to hear the actual word and phrase it makes. Have I confused all of you pretty well? Okay, well, let me introduce you to the first one. So here we go. Say this one. Good. Open their eyes. Did you guys see it? Okay, open their eyes. So here we go. We're going to do the next one. And I want you not to say it out loud. Just sit with it for a moment and then turn to the person next to you and see if you can get it. Here we go. I chose some doozies. Mike couldn't help himself. Good. Be strong and courageous. Again, I love it because if you have an accent or something, be strong and courageous. It would fit really well there, wouldn't it? Good. Yeah, it's always Russian. I can't do any other accent. I try so hard. Nothing always goes Russian. Everyone get that one? Gabriel? Beautiful. Here's like a biblical one for you. Anyone got that one? Here, I'll do it in my Russian accent for you. Washer sin sway. It's so weird that that's so natural for me. Wash your sins away. Wash your sins away. Isn't that a good one? We'll do a couple more. I don't know this one. Oh, right, because there's no E after the K. Walk. If I was Asian, I'd know that. Walk as Jesus did. Beautiful. And I think this is the last one. The Philistine Goliath. Oh! That one got me. Awesome. So that was fun. Thanks for doing that with me. I just wanted to see you all look puzzled, and I wanted to give my Russian accent a little go. So we've been talking about protest. We've been talking about this book of Revelation. And again, for me and for many of you, this book was like a weird one, especially if you went to a church. Everyone would we'd love it when you talk about like Jesus and miracles and like the Old Testament, where there's like, walking through parted water, all these stories. But then like when they talk about Revelation, it was like, whoa, this is weird. It's like weird beasts and there's fire and what is that? Let's just avoid that one. For me, I'm learning whenever there's something that's strange, something that potentially has some baggage, I'm learning to move through it rather than ignore it. And so I found some actual beauty in this ancient letter, which is what it was. It was a letter to a group of people in a community who were basically being oppressed. And they were being told, this culture, this violent, oppressive culture, you have to swallow it whole. You have to essentially become this thing. You have to take it and be part of it. And they were saying, that's not the way that we want to live. We don't want to accept that. That's not the Jesus path. And so there's this really interesting counterpoint, this letter that says we don't have to live like that. And so we went through all these different churches. How many of you enjoyed this, looking at these different letters? The book of Revelation starts with like these letters to 7 different churches, actual churches. How many of you thought that was kind of fun? Anybody? If you didn't, thanks for not saying it and making me feel okay. Good. Ways to protest. We talked about this, how a great way to protest and get no one excited is to grab a bullhorn and just start screaming, right? There was some certain laws that took place this week that had some people a bit riled up, right? I got you started. And so it was interesting. I looked on Facebook, because it's what I do when I wake up in the morning, apparently, or when I go to the bathroom, wherever I'm doing, I'm on Facebook. And so I noticed that some people were very frustrated with this. Some people just venom. And then the comments, it was interesting to follow those. Other people would post like gentle memes, right? They would just post a picture. Someone would even just say, "I'm just going to leave this here," which is essentially was like in your face, whatever. It was interesting to watch the way people protested or the way people affirmed the bill. And some of the ways they did it were not as effective as others. And so how do we protest things that aren't working for us in our culture today? How do we protest violence? How do we protest when we know like there are unequal rights, right? People they don't have the same rights. How do we protest that? Certain things in our culture, how do we live differently with it? And so all of these truths that they gave were really pretty beautiful for me, and I've been trying to live it out. The last 3 have been hard. Embodying it is not easy, right? If I say we need to love one another, forgive one another, and I'm not living it, I'm not embodying it. Ugh. So anyways, we went through that. And so right now I have a video I want to share with you that's going to introduce our topic today, I think, in a really good way. It is satire, by the way. So if you're offended, good. It's supposed to be kind of satirical and maybe even a little offensive, but it's going to be interesting because it'll be good fodder for discussion. So here we go.
You can't stop it. It's coming to a town near you. It used to be called contemporary. Some call it relevant. We're so cool, we call it contemporvant. Opening song, lights and big drums. You know it's cool because you heard it on the radio. He's right, that was cool. Speaking of cool,
Young hip guy welcoming all with graphic tee and cool glasses. I welcome everybody with arms wide open, revealing my tattoo so you know I have a past. Quirky transition to band. Invite everyone to stand. Let's do it.
this is the song that everyone knows. It's the song that everyone knows. My new song that nobody knows. Nobody knows this song. I want you to learn this song and buy my record in the bookstore after the service. I just want to invite the ushers up as we prepare for our offering. Feel free to give if you feel led. It's between you and God, but we're tracking it. One man has all the answers.
I have all the answers. Showing a picture of a puppy and or a baby from an impoverished third world nation. Speaking softly to draw you in. And then emphatically driving home my point. Long pause. Whispering. Repetition. Still pausing. Pained expression. Long prayer so that the worship leader can get back on stage.
This is the closing song with strings that'll make you cry. Coming soon to your town, a new kind of church. You will be lifted high and challenged to grow. We call that growtivation. You call this Sunday morning.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about worship, and it should be kind of fun. I used to really I was a praise and worship leader for a very long time, and I remember one time there was a guy I was supposed to be kind of learning under when I first got to this larger church I was doing worship for, and the guy, I remember when I showed up and I watched him do his set, he had one microphone up here, and he had another one down here. And I thought, I wonder like what child or midget's gonna come up and do like something in between the set, like what's gonna happen here? And so I kept thinking, okay, well, what's that mic for? He's probably not plugging in his guitar. No, he did plug in his guitar. What's it for? So I'm watching this whole set, and he's very passionate, and the band is just killing it. And then all of a sudden, like toward the end, he drops to his knees. And guess where the microphone is perfectly positioned? Perfect for the spontaneous prayer in the middle of the song. And I'm like, oh. And the best part was when he drops to spontaneous prayer, the fog machines start to. And I remember like, I just got that weird feeling of this feels weird. Yeah, it feels processed. It feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel right to me. But here's the reality: is it does work for a lot of people. If that format didn't work, you wouldn't see IKEA churches popping up all over the place, would you? Like you wouldn't, because it happens. And again, I apologize if I sound a little satirical, because I lived it. I was a part of it. I built one of those things, not quite to like thousands and thousands, but it was pretty big. And I can say that it's really easy to get caught up in some of those things, right? Where did all of this come from, though? Like, where did the idea come from that you need to have a big band? I agree. That's not it, wrong answer. Where did the idea come from that you need big bands? Where did the idea come from that you raise your hands, you sing the repetitious songs? Where did any of this come from? My daughter's so riled up over this. I am too.
Marketing, how to get more people in your church, the marketers.
Okay, marketing, that's good. Out of curiosity, yep.
Crisscrossing secular music, rock, all that. I mean, if you're going to fill arenas with 100,000 people, why not piggyback off of some of those concepts, maybe?
Okay, good.
Play their ears.
I love even like the distinction of this is spiritual, but this is secular. Like you can listen to this song on this day, these songs. I love that here we just are like, it's all spiritual. It's all beautiful. Eminem is just as spiritual, more so than Chris Tomlin. I don't know. Sorry, just being a jerk now. But it's interesting. Yeah, when you see those, good. Let me even go even further. Out of curiosity, because we don't all agree here, but some people do really like this is their jam. How does it land for you? You're here, so maybe it doesn't land because we don't have all of that. But how does that land for you? Seeing the video, the big lights, the fog machines, all that kind of stuff. How does that land for you when you're a part of it? Maybe it does do well for you, and that's okay too.
Well, I was on stage for 4 years like that.
Yeah.
And I loved it on the music side. I loved the musician part of it. But what was unfulfilling for me was the lack of return. So it was all just a show. And so the last day I ever was on stage, I remember thinking, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay. So for you, it was, I get a lot from...
Manufactured, fabricated BS.
Okay, got it.
And I was a part of that, and I don't want to do it anymore, if I could be frank.
Got it.
For me, the same thing, only from the audience perspective, trying to connect in some way with God. But then I'm seeing a repetitious pattern, and that leaves me flat because I'm more organic and more like, I like surprises, and I like to go, wait a minute, that's a song from the radio. How does that work in this? And then find the meaning in that song, like this morning. It was amazing. You just sang my song.
I love that you sang that song, by the way, Brett.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was good.
I love that song too. It's like Tony will give me just a little bit of the message, and it's like I'll just reflect a little bit. But that song was one of the ones that was ringing in my ears. So that's
So funny. It would never have been the song that popped in my head but it was such a good song. It fit well. Okay, good. And again, not to like pat ourselves on the back. Oh, we're so much more evolved than these people. Not the direction I'm going. And I apologize if that's what it sounds like.
Tony,
Yep.
do you think they who do that could make the argument that they feel like they're doing it not in order to put on a show, but to glorify God?
Okay, good. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen both. Like I've gone to like one of those events where I was more interested in the message than all of the exterior things.
Yeah.
But if it's not done in a phony way, like you said, like
This is the song that ever. Yeah.
the replaying of the mic, the putting hands and people.
Yeah.
It's all, you know what I mean? But they can argue that hey, we do these because this is glorification of God, not trying to supplant them.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that could definitely for some people be this feels like I am singing to my God, and it's I'm giving that God glory. I'm giving, again, I have a hard time saying those things 'cause I don't know exactly what that means for me anymore, but I know that does mean something for other people, like to sing adoration to God. Does anyone, like, when I say that makes sense to you? You're like, yes.
It's just funny because when you're in the Spanish church, you don't make noise.
Oh, okay.
And it's like,
When songs are happening, what do you do there?
like the hymns, like that's all, but you don't get all, you don't do that. So when I went to the English, the other church, I was like, what is this?
Got it.
Like, I'm not used to this. So
So when people raise their hands, you're like,
yeah,
whoa,
but
what
to
are we
me,
doing?
It's kind of like,
okay.
there's so much noise that I can't connect.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
that's like not what I want.
Interesting.
One more little thing is, there's so many different varieties of cultures. There's African American culture, there's all these different cultures like you're saying. At the same time, when I've been in so many of these churches that are produced in this way, and events that are produced this way, it leaves me feeling like a sheeple.
Got it. Sheeple.
Feeling like a sheeple,
Got it.
and I don't like that.
And truth is, any good musician will admit they're going to use some manipulation to move you. Like, I went to the Ben Rector show just a couple of weeks ago, loved it. And he did certain things, and I'm just like, oh, Ben. I love you, Ben. You brought me back to my childhood. You know, those kind of things. It's purposeful in the way that they're trying to move you. And then the question is, where are they moving you? Yeah, is it going to be an authentic place? Is it a place that's going to help me grow as a person, or just like worship the ground you walk on? What is it going to be? Good. So let's talk about this a little bit. For the ancient cultures, music, worship, this is something they all did. So whether you're looking at Egyptian cultures, Babylonian cultures, the Hebrew cultures, all of them had forms of worship. And so the word for the Hebrews was shahah. It's a cool word, right? Shahah. That was very breathy. And basically, it's a form. It meant not just singing words, but it meant like prayers. It meant different practices. So for the Hebrews, especially like the Jewish people during the Old Testament, they would do worship in all different forms of ways. So when I sat down at the table, it wasn't like the prayers they did back then were not this. Thank you, God, for this food. Thanks for my sister. You know, like weird things like that. It was, they would sit around and literally they'd look at each other and say, I am so thankful for you, Martha, today. And I'm so, obviously, like if you were on the table, I'm so thankful for this food today. They would say to one another, these are the things I'm thankful for. And these are the blessings that I've received this week. And I want to learn to sit in them better. Isn't that interesting? Like the prayers they would do. So their songs would all revolve around certain things. So they had a song for mourning. If someone died, they had certain songs they would sing. If a new life was brought in the world, they had certain songs they'd sing. They had certain prayers they'd sing. They had certain practices they do. And that was all considered worship. However, in our culture today, when I say worship, especially coming from like a Christian background, what do you immediately go to? Worship. Yeah, back there, the singing, right? Totally different back then. And so I want to share with you, for the Hebrews, their songs and their practices, it was all about remembering who they are. Isn't that interesting? Remembering who they are and the stories that they told. So everything revolved around that. Every song, every practice, it was remembering your stories and remembering who you are. So again, for them, you have all different kinds of worship practices. Some of them are a little more archaic than others, right? We are not sacrificing animals. Don't worry, we're not that kind of people. Yeah, right? What did you bring me to, Karen? Yeah, but back then, that's some of the stuff they would do. Like they would sacrifice an animal, right? And again, for the Hebrews, it was less about appeasing their God and more about seeing themselves in the sacrifice. Like we are that thing in the world, and we choose not to embrace violence, even though it was kind of a violent practice. I digress. All of this fit around worship forms for the Hebrews. And so as the Hebrew people moved and changed and grew, we move into the first century. Does anyone know what this word agora is? Have you ever heard of it before? It's really fascinating. Anyone ever wonder where the idea of like a pastor getting up front, or even a TED Talk, someone getting up front and being like, this is what you believe. Anyone, come on, give me an amen. Like that stuff. Ever see that? Like the place that came from was not from the Hebrew people. It wasn't from Judaism. Judaism, here's the posture that a rabbi would do when he was sitting. Well, I just told you. The posture was they would actually sit like I'm sitting with you. There was no walking the stage. There was no like dramatic pause. There was none of that. It was sitting down, and what the rabbi would do is he would say, hey, here's an interesting verse in the Torah. I'm going to twist it a little bit, make you angry or confused. You tell me what you think. Isn't that interesting? And then there would be some feedback, and they'd discuss it all week. Can you believe he said that about the book of Revelation? What? And so they would like discuss that thing all week long. That was what the Hebrews did. What the Greeks did was this. They would get together, and they would come together in these agoras, these big like kind of temple areas, and there was a big stage, and they would get up there and they'd say, I have this new philosophical idea. I think there was never a beginning and there was never an end. And everyone would be like, what? And so they would go back and forth on this idea, right? I think, and they would just share it. And people, it was so interesting. People would stand up in the middle of one of these persuasive speeches, because that's what you were doing. You were trying to persuade people to think about your idea, to buy into your idea. And people would literally just stand up in the agora and be like, you're full of it. You know, they would disagree, which is really fascinating. I remember when I was pastoring at a church, and as I'm talking, I see a dude in the back, and he's doing this. And in my mind, at that point in my life, I'm like, dude, put your freaking hand down. What are you doing? You don't do that in church. Why would it be weird in a church if someone were to, or even better yet, okay, wait a second. Like, why would that be so out of place? Why would that be just wrong? Okay, some would say that's disrespectful. He's put together a speech. Yeah. You're going to throw him off his speech. What else?
You're there to learn, not grant an opinion.
Okay, I don't want your opinion. I want to hear from this guy. He's the expert. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Question doesn't matter.
Yeah, your questions don't matter. It's what I think. Right?
We got to be out by noon, so.
Yeah, let's go. We got a time crunch. We don't have time for that. Yeah. That's right. So yeah, in the agora though, you would notice definitely a shift from the Jewish way of doing gatherings. It became more of a, I'm going to tell you what I think. And as you see Greek and Roman culture, it moved away from even discussions. And so it got to the place where the person up front was the expert, would share, and you had to simply eat whatever was given. And what happened is over and over again, as history moves along, everything revolved around making you believe the same thing we agree with. We call that indoctrination, right? I believe this thing, I need you to agree with it. And so I will give you all the verses to make you think the same way I do. I'll give you all the statistics. I have to have you believe the same as me. What happens to the people who don't believe the same as me? What was that? Yeah, they're ostracized. They're pushed out. And so for Roman culture, sometimes you were even murdered. The agora, this would happen. People were actually being murdered when they would disagree. Yeah, there were fights that would break out. Interesting, right? So let me keep going. Some of you have asked, well, where did the hymns come from? I love this question because if you look back far enough, 7th century BC, the first person to actually create hymns to the gods was Homer, the Odyssey. Come on, that's interesting, right? The Homeric hymns were the first time that you actually have poetry set to music later on, and it was Homer singing to the Greek gods. Cool? Yeah, so Homer is the first place you see it. So when you hear someone say, oh, we just need to bring the hymns back to our church service, if you attend a traditional church service, you can smile and be like, yeah, Homer had a lot to say about, such and such God. Like, wait, what? That's the background to hymns. So as culture moves and shifts, what you began to notice is Rome, their worship, there would be music. lots and lots of music. So they would basically bring people in, and they would have artistic expression. And so there would be like a lute, lyre. They would basically perform. And here's the interesting thing, too, is they would have one person perform for the worship, and then they'd have another person come up and do another one, and they would have a debate which one was better. How funny would that be in like the middle of a church service? Okay, I'm going to say that guy's was way better. His version of Good, Good Father owned it, right? Because everyone's got their own version of that song, apparently. They would do that when they were at these events, these worship experiences. They would also do a lot of different sexual things in the worship practices. They'd also do a lot of writing. They do a lot of poetry. All of this took place in forms and expressions of worship. Interesting, right? Yeah, that's where worship came from. What we have today is kind of an evolution of all of those things. The orgies just happened, later on somewhere else with the secretary. I don't know, whatever. We hear about that crazy stuff later. But that stuff is what I can't believe I just said that. You're never coming back. Sorry. So again, yeah, that's what it looked like back then. And so what's interesting, though, in Roman culture was for the Hebrews at that point, the Jewish people, when the book of Revelation is written, it was actually written with the idea worship was actually meant to pledge your allegiance to something. See the subtle shift? Worship was now less about appeasing the gods, those kind of things, and more about how do I pledge my allegiance to this thing? So let me ask just a real general question first. Who feels like, okay, that movement, my values, pretty well align with that thing? Is there a movement or something going on right now in our culture that you think, I identify with that? Mm-hmm.
Helping homeless people get off the streets.
Okay, nice. And there are many different movements that are associated with that. Good. You have a passion for that. That's something you can pledge your time, your energy, your resources to.
Universal health care.
Universal health care. Okay, good. Some people are cringing at that. I love it. Yeah, good. Anyone else?
This is kind of like political too, but I'm low-key stoked about Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Okay, you're like Bernie Sanders. I connect with him. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, good. Yeah, the Me Too movement. Anyone on that? I've loved watching that. It's been really neat to see different people standing up for one another. Anyone else? I'm so surprised no one's talking about what happened this week, but okay, that's cool. So,
How much do you want to talk about?
so Betty aligns with that movement. Good.
No, I'm not for it. I'm not
Against it.
Let's make sure we get
Yes, I think we pretty well figured that one out. So good. Whether you're pro-choice, no choice, wherever you are in this, that's you pledge your allegiance. You side with one or the other. That's what worship was then. I side with this thing, this value, this movement, this person who embodies the thing. I side with them. And so I will emulate, I'll embody that thing. Everyone clear on what worship was then? So watch this now. I'm just going to skip past this. Contemporary music today, I find it really interesting. Again, I love the music. Well, I don't love all the music, but it's fun to play music. But here's the interesting thing about contemporary stuff that we see today. Brian Zahn said this, and I thought, oh, like that hurts a little bit to read. I'll read it to you. One can worship without really having to change the alignment of their life today. One can worship today as an event and yet never really walk the Christ path of facing injustice, suffering, and turning away from violence. It's almost as if to say one can be a Christian and never really follow Christ. How did that land for you? Anybody? Yeah. We've gotten really good at worshiping Jesus and really crappy at following him. It's interesting when Christians today are known for being like connected with the hypocrisy and the violence and the injustice. You can be really good at worshiping and really terrible at following today. Whereas back then, if you were worshiping, you were aligned with and you looked like the thing. Do you see the difference? Anyone have like an aha moment and you're just feeling like you just got hit over the head? Oh, I love this. So in that time era, there's this guy named Emperor Domitian. And Emperor Domitian was all about looking and acting the part of the gods. And so Domitian, here's what would happen. When he would walk out of his palace, he would send 24 people ahead of him singing about how great he is. They would sing actual like praise songs to Domitian. Do you know that you can hire people to be paparazzi for you? You know that's a thing? That's what he did. Like he was the first one to do it. He would basically hire people to go out and sing about how great he is as he was walking down through the city. Domitian would actually dress like the gods. And one of his favorite gods to dress as was Nike. So again, really fascinating, the flight, the god of flight. He would dress up like these gods, and he expected people to be in alignment, worship him. He would go around and he would say, if you want to buy and sell, you need to light incense at these different places and put a mark on your hand showing that you pledge your allegiance to Domitian. Like, how insecure is this dude? Right? But that's what was going on. And there's a group of people who were saying, we're not so sure our values align with Domitian. We're not so sure that violence is the best way to bring peace in the world. We're not so sure that that is what we value and we want to worship, align ourselves with. But that was Emperor Domitian. So this letter that is being written with all these weird like symbols and apocryphal writing, it's really all pointing to, whenever you hear about beasts and that kind of stuff, it's pointing to the Roman Empire and how they run things. How would you describe the American government and how we run things if you were Canadian, African, wherever, somewhere else other than here? How might you be tempted to view America? How might you be tempted to? We don't have to bash. Okay, in a somewhat negative way. Bullies. Okay, we on all the different scales taken, the only one that we are number one on, out of like happiness scale, all these different things, we're number one on the power scale, which I thought was interesting. The power scale. And yet we call ourselves a Christian nation. Jesus was all about what? Yeah, it's interesting. Like there's so many interesting dynamics to consider about our nation. I'm not saying I don't love being here in America, because we have so many freedoms. I can say that. You guys get it. So let me read you a little bit from this letter. And again, I know I'm going to bore some of you from the get-go, but I'm just going to move down. Come up here. I'll show you what must happen after this. And instantly I was in the Spirit. I saw a throne in heaven and someone sitting on it. This is not to be taken literally. So the author is talking about a throne. And the author's talking about jasper and all these different stones around the throne, and it looks like a rainbow. Let me tell you something interesting historically. Are you guys okay with hearing a little bit of history? I'm not boring you? Okay, good, because I love this crap. Emperor Domitian would have this thing called the Domitian Games. And he had all these people come together in this huge stadium, and they had to be wearing white. All right? You had to wear white. And when you were there, you would watch as all the different governors would come before him, and they'd have to answer to him. But guess what was around his throne? It was like bedazzled. Yeah, tons and tons of jewels. So think about what happens when the sun shines down. What does it look like? Yeah, like he is a god. And so when you start to study like ancient cultures, all of their kings, they had these super, super brilliant thrones. And the reason was they wanted to appear like they were gods. And so for Domitian, same thing, same concept. And so John's pointing out a different throne that looks very similar. Do you guys get it? Again, this is all very political. It's kind of a slap on the Roman Empire. It would be like me again talking about certain political figures today in negative ways. That's what this letter's doing. And if you were there, you would be picking up on all this.
We talked about Domitian probably a couple months ago. Just out of curiosity, I was looking, and you can actually buy a coin, Domitian's era, on eBay.
Oh, nice. How much is that coin?
$150.
For $150, that's it? Really? Oh. What? This is how nerdy I am. The coins, he had all these coins, and guess what the phrase was? Emperor Domitian, son of... All the emperors had the phrase son of God. Like that's the word, the phrase son of God is not a new idea. Because here's what they believed about every emperor that died. When the emperor died, where do you think they went? They went to reign with the gods because they were the son of the gods. Am I hurting anyone?
No.
Interesting though, right? It's all part of how they viewed their culture, all the different values they had.
Caesar and all, they all believed kind of that they were, wasn't just Domitian, right?
Yes, Caesar, every single emperor had that same belief. They all had resurrections, all of them.
They were all born virgins too, right?
Many of them were born of virgins, yeah, the story goes. Here's even the really interesting place of worship. And this was one that Domitian had built. And what you would see if you were alive during that first century was that you would see all 12 gods above there on that top portion. All 12 gods would have been in that front section. Guess who was the 13th one right in the middle above them all? Domitian. So again, when we get to like all the numbers 12 and all those things, please understand it's John taking things that culture is already aware of. It would be like me today talking about donkeys and elephants. 8,000 years later, when people pick up some of our stuff, they're gonna be like, who are these donkeys and elephants? Who's the Cheeto guy? Like all of this stuff. Like they're gonna have these kind of, they'll be, what was going on? That's what was going on. That would have been 68 AD to 72 AD, somewhere around there.
2000.
Oh yeah.
So if you think about it, though, most people didn't live in buildings like that. They probably lived in little crappy huts, right?
Yep.
And that's an era where there's no cranes, no machines,
Oh, yeah.
and they look and see that he did that.
Right.
That's impressive now.
Yeah.
You had cranes. They didn't have cranes. How did they do that?
Exactly.
Those things weighed
Yeah,
tons.
it's incredible. When they saw that, there was no denying he's a God. Like, who else could do that? There's this moment when Jesus is talking about if you say to this mountain, move, and this, if you have enough faith, here's what's going on at that very same moment. Herod actually had a mountain moved and built up somewhere else. So again, all of this stuff is happening. When you read the history, you'll understand why certain comments are made. Yeah, really cool. So the throne, all of that. Here's some more. Again, when I was younger, I would read this, and I was told this was literal, and it would give me nightmares. So 24 thrones surrounded him. 24 elders sat on them. They were all clothed in white and gold crowns on their heads. From the throne came flashes of lightning and rumbles of thunder. In front of the throne were 7 torches with burning flames. This is the sevenfold Spirit of God in front of the throne. Do you guys understand now why he's using all like the 24 elders, the throne, and all these different symbols now? Like now it makes sense. Essentially, our way of life is better than theirs. What we are pledging our allegiance to is better than theirs. That's what he's saying, why he's using the language he's using. 12, 24. There's a bunch of references in the book of Revelation about 12. 12, 12, 12. And again, if you're a Hebrew person, you're also connecting to the Old Testament. 12 tribes, 12 spies, 12 priests. All of this language is being used. It's not to be taken literally, right? But there's interesting significance if you're a Jewish person, which I don't believe any of you are. So just interesting to know. Yeah?
Is it not possible also that throne that Domitian created actually intentionally had potentially 7 and he purposely designed it so somebody possibly could have seen all of these manufactured?
Yeah, maybe. And that's the thing too. We don't have any like actual pictures of his throne. We do have descriptions from Roman writing, but I haven't seen anything where it says like there were the number 24 though. 24 choir singers was an actual number that I picked up that I thought, whoa, that's really interesting. But yeah, I don't know.
It's more. You would conclude it's not unlikely that he did that intentionally. That it was just more like we're 100 million more.
Right.
1 billion.
Yeah, that's good. Nice. Yeah, and again, John's writing about a culture that already exists. So he's pointing out things about that group and saying our thing is better. That's the whole point of what he's doing. And so this one gave me nightmares too. Again, I read this when I was younger, and I used to be in these, like, I would sit through these weird seminars, Revelation seminars. It would talk about a lion and an ox and a human with a human face and an eagle, all of these things singing holy, holy, holy all day and night. That's weird, am I right? Like, that looks like this. And when you're a little kid, you're like, what the devil is going on here? Like, yeah, 4 living beings. None of this to be taken literally. You get to this point where all 4 elders, they drop down. He's talking about this moment where worship is happening. You're dropping your crown. If you're a Roman person and you were to gain a crown, it would either mean that you went through something significant and you earned it and now you're victorious, or you are literally royalty. So when it's saying, I'm dropping all of these things at the foot of this person who embodies this thing, this movement, it's saying, I give everything to this movement. Like, I don't hold anything else. I give it all to this movement. I'm going to be completely in. I'm fully in. Is that fair? I'm fully in. I'm fully in on this thing. And so this is what the picture would look like if it was literal. That's kind of weird, right? Yeah. A bunch of people around a throne, a weird-looking lamb with a human, there's an animal with a human face. Not to be taken literally, but people will oftentimes read this and say, no, it's literal, which is weird. It's just weird. But if you're understanding Roman culture, you get the significance of it. And it also talks about a scroll. And I find scrolls really fascinating during that time. It says, no one's able to open the scroll. There's all these things written, and it says the writer, John, is sad that no one can open the scroll. And for me, I find it really fascinating because scrolls, here's the thing about scrolls in Roman culture. A scroll basically had all of the names of the emperor on it, like how great you are. So all your nicknames, cheese ball, whatever, I don't know. Greatest at chess, whatever. Your descriptions of how great your reign was and how cool you were, that was what was on the scroll. Also, your right to rule. So basically, your resume is on the scroll. And then all of the promises you made during your campaign. Interesting. Can you imagine if we were actually able to hold all these people making all these promises who want to be president, if we could actually hold them to it? That'd be really interesting. You said this, but we haven't really seen that yet, which is why most of them will use like broad words like change or whatever, You brought change, yep. Not even he could open them after it was sealed. So understand this, the Roman emperor, after everything's sealed, he can't open it, which means, again, there's power in that thing. It can't be broken. Whatever I say has to happen. My promises have to take place. You guys get that? So who's able to open this? When Emperor Domitian says, I have the right to rule, the Roman way of living, again, violence, injustice, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, power is everything. When Domitian says that's it and it's written on the scroll and it's sealed, when a certain culture says, women, you have some rights, but not all the rights. Us men, we're going to hold some of those because we need to make sure we have a little more power because you're not quite ready. Ladies, your bodies are yours except for when ... Sealed. Right? Who can make that change? Who can break the seal? That's what this is saying. Who can break the seal? Who can break the cycle that we're in? What do you think? Is this fairly applicable for today? Kinda. Any comments? I'm so interested. I can keep moving. Okay. And then it says this. It says, the Lamb took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. He took it, and essentially it says he's able to open the scroll. And so again, not literal, a lamb doesn't go and open the scroll. Here's the beauty of this whole thing. The way of Jesus, the writer is saying, is the way that brings life. It's not through oppression. It's not through force. It's not through taking away other people's rights so I can have more power. Those are not the ways toward life. The ways toward life look like loving your enemy. It looks like giving away power rather than holding it. It looks like bringing in the marginalized and treating them well. It looks like taking care of the widow, the orphan, the stranger within your gates, the foreigner. That's what it looks like with the slain lamb, the Jesus movement. Do you see the difference? And what John is saying is only that is going to be the thing that's going to change and reshape the world. The way of Rome, he's arguing, doesn't. It does not work. And so the values are different. Essentially, choose to align yourself with what brings life. I just kind of went through that. Here's a question that seems so open, but it's one that I think if you haven't considered is kind of a scary one. So think about this question for yourself right now, because this is hardcore. It hurt me when I wrote it. What are your values? If someone were to say, what do you value? Do you know what your answer would be? What are your values? Do you millennials even have any values? Said my mom every time I saw her. What was that? Is that the new app? Yeah, right. Just out of curiosity. Who has an answer? Like, what are your values? Do you have any? Equality is a value for you. Okay. Inclusion. Good. Equality, inclusion. Give me more. No one else has any values. We're all just living chaotic, crazy lives. What was that? Respect. Just a little bit. Give me more. Compassion.
People ask me how I vote, and I answer it this way. I say, or what my political views are, and I say, has to do with my values. I say, I'm a social liberal with conservative values, and I vote my values.
Got it.
So I'm really aware of my values.
So you know what those conservative values are.
Yes, I do.
Nice. I know some people that would use that phrase not having any idea what those values were. Good on you.
So I let people live their lives, do what they need to do for them, but I gotta do what I gotta do for me.
Got it. Nice. Here's the worst question that anyone could ask you after you share your value. You said, Brett?
Inclusion.
Inclusion. Brett, are you, and don't answer, but I know you are, but are you including everyone in conversation around the social circle? Are you including everyone? If it's a value you have. Compassion. Are you compassionate only when it works for you, or are you learning to live it fully all the time? Are you learning to embody the values that you have? Because here's the thing. It's really easy to be a Christian, but it's really hard to be a Christ follower. Here are the top 4 values in America. This was a Gallup poll done, and I find it so interesting. So interesting. Number 1 value was health. Second value was happiness. It's kind of like a yuppie word. I'm not sure what that means, but we want to be happy. A third value is we want money, right? We want money. We feel that's a value. And the fourth was family. So those are the 4 values that were voted as, in America, these are the 4 values we hold closest. Here's what I find really ironic. When this health survey was done, the World Health Organization, America is one of the unhealthiest nations in the world. Yet it is our top value. Is that interesting to anyone but me?
Looks like Canada's pretty bad too.
Yeah, there's a couple of us. We've got some work. Yeah.
Russians, drink all that vodka?
Yeah.
Flush their kidneys right now.
But isn't it interesting? Like the obesity rate in America is far worse than the majority of other countries in the world. We like to say it's a value, but are we living it is the question. Here's another thing. We value happiness. Interestingly enough, we are an extremely unhappy nation. And I noticed that, again, it's interesting. We're unhappier and unhappier year after year after year. There's a study done called the Happiness Index. And we were actually like, I think it was like 40 something. Number one, what was it? I don't remember now. Norway, a couple others, maybe Finland, Denmark. Those were happy places. America was not so happy. Yet it's the second highest value we have. Another one, happiness. Again, we value money. What's interesting, though, in America is it seems the more money you have, the unhappier you are. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. When you don't have as much, you seem to be happiest. Someone explain that one.
Less to lose.
Yeah, there we go. You got to hold it tighter if you have more. I don't know, but seems to be in America, we are unhappiest when we are wealthier. So our third value is still kind of a weird one for us in America. And by the way, I'm not knocking America. I'm saying this is where we live. These are the values we have. Let's consider them. Family. We said family's a big one. How many of you feel like family's a big one for you? Like family first, right? Family. America, I just screenshot this when I read this the other day. American families spend just 37 minutes of quality time together per day. How's that land for you?
I don't know who those families are. Still remember that.
I find that interesting. This article went on to talk about social media, different ways. People used to sit around the table. Now they sit around the TV when they come together. Kids are not coming together with homework with mom and dad anymore. They're doing their own thing. Kids are spending more time alone in their rooms and less time with their parents. Media is a blessing, but also a curse. And so families, when we consider families, which is our fourth highest value in America, we are spending way and way less time together. Anyone feeling depressed? It's fascinating to me, though, what we value. Here's a quote I just had to put up. We live in an age where we are very good at talking about our values, but terrible at living them. We're terrible at living them. Really good at talking about them, terrible at living them. And so the writer of Revelation says the way to live it has to start here, and it has to move outward. So I was looking at some different ways to live out our values, because if we share all these ideas and we don't actually have a takeaway, an application, then what was the point? So here's some really interesting ideas that I was picking up just this week from Timothy Ferriss. How many of you have heard of Timothy Ferriss? Great podcast. He brings up some really interesting ideas, and I just want to hear what you think of this. He says, take time to write down the values you want to live by. So what would happen if today, after this, you just took a few minutes and you wrote down, here are the values I want to have. Here are the values I want to hold on to. What would change for you just by writing it? What might shift?
You might hold yourself more accountable.
Okay, I can now begin holding myself accountable.
Setting your intention.
Nice, setting my intention. First off, think about this. If I don't even know what they are, I have no intention. Which means I'm doing things unintentionally. There's no values to guide me. I'm just doing stuff.
So creating awareness versus being distracted all day with other things.
Nice. Yeah, when I'm aware, I can move in that direction. Another thing he says is this. Post these values, remind yourself daily of them. Where can you post those values that you can remind yourself? Anybody? I want helpful hints here. Because the mirror thing, it honestly didn't work for me. I think I did it once, and then Steam happened. And
You can actually create an event on your calendar. I've actually done this, and it reminds me.
every day.
Is it on your phone?
Yeah.
Or like the screensaver?
The screensaver, that's a good idea.
That's the first thing that we see in the
Because yes, you're right. There. Oh crap! These values again. Yeah, that's right. That's good.
Right at the top, don't be lazy.
That's right. Don't be lazy. Don't look at your phone every day, jerk. Yeah, that's good. I like that. So find ways to basically, I think what he's saying is make it visible so that we're reminded of them daily. I think that's beautiful. Another thing he said was identify the things that oppose your values, step away from them. Out of curiosity, does anyone have like a obvious, this is definitely something that I need to probably just step away from, spend less time with?
My Facebook app, I trashed it off of my phone. I took it off my phone.
Holy cow, how are you alive? How are you functioning?
It's awesome because that way I don't binge watch all the animal videos.
Oh, good on you. I don't know what it is about, there's just some kind of finality to it of like Xing that thing out. I don't know, like, will the world continue spinning if I don't know what's going on in all of my friends' lives? Yeah, oh, that's terrifying. Okay, good. So take away the distraction. What else? Anyone else? Again, this is kind of a big one, and I know like some things we just don't share maybe, but what are some things like, yeah, that does kind of push me away from the things I'm trying to value? Negativity. Yeah, do you have friends? Let's go there. Do you, or acquaintances who are just like, hey, it's so sunny out, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's not that great, June gloom. Eeyore again. Like, maybe spending less time with Eeyore, right? Like, I think it's just like, yeah, Christopher Robin, great job spending time with Eeyore, but sometimes you got to say goodbye to the Eeyores. Negativity. Yeah, how do we begin to step away from the negativity? That's a good one. That's hard. Anyone else?
Well, now living your picture reminds me of so health conscious and like careful with what I do and eat, but I can't
Stop eating
get rid of
cookies.
sugar.
Stop eating cookie dough.
Yeah, I open the fridge, like my answer is going to be there to the stress that I just had from my daughter saying she hates me. I'm like, please give me an answer. Yeah, like it's never there though. It's never there. There we go. Put values right there. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, awesome. I like this one, and anyone that knows that picture will laugh because community is important. Community is important. Find people who share similar values. If you're part of like groups or friend circles or communities that don't have those same values, it gets really hard to live them. Because your friends, your circles, those are the people who are going to essentially be the ones who hold you to it or pull you away from it. And so, yeah, what kind of circles of friends do you have? Are they the ones that are living those values, embodying them? This is a hard one to consider. I know some people have had to, like, their family was the very opposite of, like, embodying those values, and they had to, like, create some space. They're always going to be family, but they had to create some space, and that's just a reality that happened. Yeah, many families, in fact, yeah. Interesting. And so I wanted to end with this. How many of you have ever watched Undercover Boss? Jeez. Like, anyone else cry at, like, the end of every single one of them? What is up with that? Every time I watch it, and they start giving away money, and I'm just, oh, it's so beautiful. You're giving away $10,000. His college tuition's paid. He can get glasses, you know, whatever it is. Like I love the show, and the CEO of the cookie place, the cookie thing in the malls, Mrs. Fields. Sarah, why did I say? Where'd Sarah come from? Sarah Lee. I don't know why Sarah Lee. Miss Fields, Mrs. Fields. She's taken. Yeah. So Mrs. Fields, she basically went to one of the stores, the storefronts, and she had all of these rules set up. And so one of them was you can only spend 45 seconds with a customer. And so she had to sit behind there and only have 45 seconds, and what it took is like 3.5 minutes. And she found that the girl who was behind the counter was really good at connecting with people, And she had a lot of regulars that would show up because she took more than 45 seconds. And yet the girl who was kind of the manager of that one that she was visiting, she kept, you're at 45 seconds, you're at 3 minutes. She was holding her accountable to the thing, showing her the thing doesn't work. She started meeting a bunch of her workers and the owners of these different shops and began realizing, I have to create change. I'm not living the values that I set my company up to be. It's not a warm, friendly place where you connect with people. It's become just another store. She met people who were actually pulling away from their families just so they could be there. And she started to see all of this change that needed to take place. And she had to go face those people as the CEO later on. And I found it so beautiful. Again, I got so teary-eyed because she said, I am so sorry. I was not living the values. I was not intentionally living those values, and I was pushing that on you. And she started to make changes in how everything was run. And I thought, how inspiring. Like, how inspiring to know the values you have, to begin making shifts and changes and purposely live differently, intentionally living those values. And so I want to just challenge you today, and again, no matter where you are on the spectrum, if you're here or there politically, if you're here religiously or non-religiously, wherever you are, what values are you aligning yourself with? What values are you connecting with? And are you living them? Because here's what I find so beautiful about the Jesus movement, was it was a movement that said, we're going to love one another. We're going to forgive our enemies. We're going to bring in the marginalized in. We're going to create safe space for people to grow. We're going to become that kind of people who restore the world, not destroy it. Those were the beautiful values of the Jesus movement. And for me, I find it so beautiful. And those are values I'm trying to learn to live in. And so whatever your values are, I hope that you can find ways to find space and time to actually embody them as well. And when you do it, here's the crazy thing. You're actually worshiping. You didn't need a fog machine to do it. You didn't need a beautiful looking guy up front playing music. I'm just messing. Yeah, that was my subtle cue to have Brett come up and start doing music. I'm totally messing with you. Yeah, you didn't need those things because you now have become the worship. Yeah? That's so good. Thanks for letting me talk today. We're going to have Brett come up and do some music. And I think while he's coming up, Lance is going to casually come up in a really poetic way as Brett's coming up. Watch this. It's so rehearsed. Yeah, watch. It's so rehearsed. They're going to come up right now. Brett's going to slowly grab his guitar, and Lance is going to move you to give away all of your money to Ethos. Yeah, he's going to quickly give himself a tattoo. Yeah, my symbol. I have a past. Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Awesome.
Well, it is time for our contributions and donations. There are jars in front of you with, there should be envelopes as well. As you can see from our chart, we're roughly midway through the month, and we're coming along. So please be generous. Obviously, we want you to support what we're doing here. Based on today's talk, Tony, that if you haven't got something out of this in terms of reevaluating how you think and how you want to live your life, it is what we're doing here is stimulating that, and it's a community I think that all of you enjoy and hope you're you're growing in this. So please support what we're doing. Be as generous as possible, and whatever you give, we're very much appreciative.
Tony talked about, in order to be authentic to who we are, who we're becoming, in aligning ourselves with who we want to be, many times we do have to say goodbye to something, to someone, to a job, to a bad toxic relationship, sometimes even something in ourselves that needs to die. So whatever you're speaking to today, I invite you to sing along as we say something.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I am feeling so small. It was over my head. I knew nothing at all. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I will swallow my pride. You're the one that I love, but I'm saying goodbye. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. And anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Let's sing that chorus one more time together.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. And anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you.
And the beautiful thing about saying goodbye is that it leaves us with new space and new freedoms to accept new things in our life that are better for us. So this is one of those throwback songs by Teddy Geiger from my the early 2000s days, my favorite musical era so far in my life. So if you know it, sing along, but really, really focus on the lyrics because it talks about giving yourself the freedom to accept new invitations in your life, even if it means having to overcome some fears and inhibitions in the process. It's called For You I Will.
wandering the streets in a world underneath it all. Nothing seems to be, nothing tastes as sweet as what I can't have. Like you and the way that you twist in your hair around your finger. Tonight I'm not afraid to tell you what I feel about you. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have and cannonball into the water. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you I will. Forgive me if I used to stutter from all of the clutter in my head. 'Cause I could go to sleep in those eyes like a waterbed. Do I seem familiar? I've crossed you in hallways 1,000 times. But no more camouflage, I wanna be exposed and not be afraid to fall. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have and cannonball into the water. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you I will. You always want what you can't have, but I have got to try. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you I will. For you I will. For you I will. If I could dim the lights in the mall and create a mood, yeah, I would. Shout out your name so it echoed in every room, I would. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, that's what I do to get through to you. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have, cannonball into the water. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you I will. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have and cannonball into the water. I'm gonna muster every ounce of confidence I have. For you I will. For you I will. Whatever it's worth, whatever you're singing to. For you I will. For you I will. All this pain, I wonder if I'll ever find my way. I wonder if my life could really change at all. All this earth, could all that is lost ever be found? garden come up from this ground at all. But you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. All around, hope is springing up from this old ground. Out of chaos, life is being found in you. 'Cause you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Let's sing it again. You make beautiful things. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. Oh, yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make me new. You are making me new. And you make me new. You are making me new. And you make me new. You are making me new. And you make me new. You are making me new. And you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. Yeah, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us.
Like the old ways of doing church and stuff. Let's do like what we used to do, Brett. Keep playing that music. I'm gonna do one of those end of the sermon things, but a little twist. Can I do that with you? Just for fun, just for old time's sake. But I want to do a twist on it. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want to take you through maybe a story, a meditation, a something, just an image I got in my mind as I was listening to that song. I want you right now, as the music's playing, I want you to use your imagination, and I want you to picture yourself, you're walking on a trail, and it's a hike, and the sun is out, and it feels good. The sun's on your skin. There's birds chirping, and you're walking on this trail. And the trail, as you continue walking, it just feels good to stretch those legs, and you're moving. And as you're walking, you're gaining some elevation. You're getting higher and higher on this trail. It's becoming more of a ridge. And you see you've maybe got a mile to go until you're at the peak. Because this trail started flat. It was easy, but it's beginning to get a little bit harder. You're sweating a little bit more, but you're still walking. And you're walking further and further up the trail. You're breathing. You can feel it. It's a little bit heavier, isn't it? It's a little bit harder to breathe, but you can see the top. You can see it. And you're getting closer and closer to the top. But then your foot, it finds a rock of some sort, and your ankle twists a bit, it buckles, and before you know it, you are rolling down the hill. You haven't reached the peak, and you're rolling down this hill, and you're bumping into rocks. There are thorns that are scratching your arms and your legs, and it hurts, and you're rolling, you're out of control. And you're rolling down this hill until you land with a thud. And the ground feels hard, and your head aches a little bit. And your eyes are closed, because man, that was scary. And you have fallen down that hill. You feel a little bit funny. You're afraid to open your eyes because who just saw you? You keep your eyes closed, and the pain, it hurts. You're scraped up all over. You feel a little bit of a welt forming on your head. And you're just laying there. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to begin to open your eyes there. And then what you'll notice is the sun is still shining on you. The sun is still shining. The top of the mountain is a whole lot further away now. And you have just fallen quite a ways down. You start to assess your body. It hurts. There's scrapes. There are tears. You're bloody. And your head aches. You take a minute and you grimace and you finally rise up a bit off your back. And you're sitting up now. And what you're going to do is you're going to just turn your head because you hear some noises behind you. You're going to turn and look. What you notice is there are all these other people with scrapes. All these other people sitting on their backsides, rubbing their heads, looking around. You realize in this moment, you're not alone. You just took a gigantic fall. And you realize in this moment, you are not alone. There are all these other people who just stumbled down this hill. And as you begin to get to your feet, you notice other people doing the same. And together you slowly assemble. And you begin talking about the spill, the fall. You begin comparing your scars. You begin wiping those stains. And together, after telling your stories, you begin walking back up the hill, but this time you got a little bit of a limp. This time the sun, even though it's so beautiful, it hurts a little bit because your head hurts a little bit. But what you'll notice is as you are walking up this hill now, you're not doing it alone. There are other people with you. And as you continue moving up the hill, it gets harder, but for some reason, you're able to do it. And you continue walking further and further up the hill until at the top, you reach the top and you all come together and you look at this beautiful landscape ahead of you. And this moment of realization, it dawns on you. Down there where you took the fall, where you took the spill, where things seemed out of control, that was where the land was the most fertile. Right down there where those moments where it hurt the most, where you seemed like you experienced the most chaos, those were the moments you were actually connected to people the most. It was those moments that while you're here on the top of the pinnacle, you can now say, oh, so good, so beautiful. it's those moments that I hope as a community we can learn to continue to embrace, knowing we're not alone as we continue to learn to embody this thing, this new life. As we continue to thrive, we might learn to embrace every moment on the walk and know that we are not alone. We are doing this all together. You can open your eyes. Love you all. Thank you so much for coming today. We're going to just do a couple more talks on this old book, Revelation, but I hope that you've gotten something from it as much as I have. Love you all, and we will see you next week. And if you're at the barbecue today, fantastic. We'll see you there. We are going to be doing a couple video shots up here, so when we finish, make sure to love people, give them big hugs, all of that, and then just make your way out. We don't want to push you out today, but we're going to do some video today, so that's what will happen up front. Anyways, we love you, and we'll see you next week.